Was there a lot of like when you were a child in Austria, was there a lot of like individualism or were things very like regimented? Like in America, you could you can be an individual, right? But some countries it's a little bit harder to kind of like, be an individual and have a voice. I'm just wondering, what was it like there when you were young? Did it feel like things were regimented or it was okay to be rebellious? What was it like there?
Well, I was rebellious in a way because, think about it, soccer and track and field, they were kind of like the in sports. But when I was exposed to weightlifting and to powerlifting and to bodybuilding, I fell in love with that. And also because my heroes like Reg Park and Steve Reeves, they were doing Hercules movies, and I just started looking at those movies, right? And so I said to myself, I want to be like that. I don't want to be a top soccer player. I want to be like that. I want to have the muscles like that, and I want to get into movies like that. And so that all of a sudden became my dream.
So you really wanted to be like this?
Yeah. So I was fixated. I was like kind of like concentrating that I kind of put visually my head on Reg Park's body, and I said to myself, there was a famous picture where he won the Mr. Universe contest in London in 1951. And when I saw that picture, it was like him holding the trophy and flexing his bicep.
Yeah.
And then I said to myself, can you imagine if this is me? I'm going to make this me. And so that's what I was training for. So my parents thought that it was kind of like, what is that all about? Where did that come from? And the whole neighborhood was kind of like wondering, what is this guy doing, training every day, 2 hours, 3 hours a day? I came home, and instead of having lunch, I would put my sit-up board up on the kitchen table, and I would be doing sit-ups, 500 sit-ups during lunch.
So you were addicted to it. You were
totally addicted, because I was driven by my vision. So it was always there.
Yeah.
Even when I was in school, I would sometimes just wander off when the teacher was teaching out there and writing up something on the blackboard, and I would be looking at that, and then all of a sudden he could see that I was just kind of like staring off.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he threw a chalk at my head, and I would bang. And I looked back again. He says, Arnold, I'm up here. I know you're looking at the beautiful trees out there. They're more beautiful maybe than me, but you got to listen to what I'm saying here. So I noticed I was always kind of drifting off and
daydreaming,
visualizing my dreams. Always visualizing my dreams. Being on that stage in the Mr. Universe contest, doing maybe Hercules movies, going to America, and all of that. So it was very different. So that was not the norm. So I did step out of the norm, and because everyone else was talking about, I'm going to go and get a job with the government because I want to make sure that I collect my pension when I was 65 and all this. I had no interest in any of that pension. What are we talking about now? The age of 18, we start talking about pensions? It's crazy, right?
Was it scary to tell your parents that, to leave Austria? Did people do that at the time? I'm just a little bit curious on what it was like to say, I'm leaving here and I'm going to go to America. Was it even a popular path for people to go?
Well, remember, I started saying this when I was 10.
Ah, I see. So it had been, your parents knew it was in your head.
Yeah, exactly. So I saw a documentary, a black and white documentary in the school. They showed always those films with this 8mm, whatever, films on the little screen. And like I said, television was not the common thing at that time in Austria, so we didn't grow up with that. And but they showed the film, and I saw a documentary about America.
Yeah.
Now I see the Empire State Building. I said, wait a minute. This building is like, 100 times taller than any of the buildings in Graz, where I grew up, right, in Austria. And then I saw the Golden Gate Bridge. Then I saw the Pacific Coast Highway. I saw all of this kind of, great things. I saw the 6-lane highways. I saw the big Cadillacs, with the big fins sticking out, And
the
so I said to myself,
too.
and then we had all this little kind of cars and Muscle Beach and all of this stuff that did Hollywood. I said to myself, I got to go to America. I got to go to America. Austria is not the place. It was almost kind of like that my gene was over here. So it kind of, I gravitated towards America. not that they hated Austria, but they just wanted to leave and go do something different. So my parents always saw me as being different. So it was not a surprise to them that I wanted to go as soon as I was through with high school and trade school, that I wanted to go into the military. So I went in the military because after you go and serve in the military, then you can get your passport and you can travel.
So you had to go to the military to get your passport in Austria?
That's right, yeah.
Is it still that way?
No, I don't think it's different now. Everything is different because everything has changed.
Yeah.
But that's the European way. Everyone looks for stability, especially in those times where government was really ruling. So then that's also, I think, an explanation of why when I came over here to America in 1968 and I saw Hubert Humphrey and Nixon campaigning.
Hubert Humphrey, who is Hubert
He was the
Humphrey?
vice president under Johnson.
Okay.
And so he was campaigning
After Kennedy?
to become, Johnson was after Kennedy. Then Hubert Humphrey was his vice president. So he was running for president.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then so was
Looks like
Nixon.
he eats gumdrops, that guy.
And so it was really interesting when I listened to the debates and I didn't understand maybe 3/4 of it. But I had a friend that spoke German and he translated for me. And when I heard of what Nixon said, it was so opposite of what I grew up with, which I didn't like, where government was in charge of everything.
In Austria?
In Austria, yeah, exactly. And so it was in Germany and in all those countries over there in Europe. Socialism was the system that I grew up in. So when Nixon spoke, I felt like, wow, get government off your back.
Get the
That
government
sounds
off your back.
Great. Wow. And lowering the taxes, strong military, strong police force, strong this, strong that, a strong economy. Let the people be free. Let them shop all around the world, and blah, blah, blah. And I said to myself, this is like unbelievable. And then when Humphrey spoke, it was like I was back in Austria. So then I said to myself, what are the parties here? Because I didn't understand really the parties yet.
Why? What was it about Humphreys that made it feel like you were back in Austria?
Well, I said government is the solution.
Oh, I see. So he was more like the cage.
We all know that the government is not the solution. I mean, it's like the free enterprise, the economy and all this. You got to let people be free and not be controlled by government. Government is good, but you have to find kind of the middle ground of all this stuff.
Yeah, you can't. If you rely solely on the government for your life, then you'll be a part of the government, basically.
Well, and you become a vegetable.
Yeah.
Because they create the safety net, then you don't have the will to really kind of make it on your own. So what the big advantage of coming to America was that there was no safety net. So I was on my own.
Yeah.
So I had to get really creative. Okay, how can I go to school and educate myself? How can I go and get more English classes? How can I go to Santa Monica City College and at the same time work? And at the same time train 5 hours a day and do all of those kind of things. So but it was up to me now to be successful, not up to the government.
Oh, I like that.
So
So
government
freedom.
was providing the opportunities
The
and all
structure.
this, the structure. But that is what I enjoyed. And so this is why I became kind of like a Nixon Republican. And people always were kind of like, especially in California, which is a much more liberal
how could
state.
you be a Republican?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. Nixon, of course, came from California.
Do you remember your first day in America?
Oh, yes. It was in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
I went to Miami and I was competing there in a competition. And then after that, I came out to California and I was picked up in California at the airport by a bodybuilding photographer by the name of Adi Zeller and Dick Tyler, who wrote for the muscle magazines. They picked me up and took me to an apartment that Joe Weider rented for me. And it was fantastic. I mean, from then on, I got all the help in the world now because that's when I really realized the generosity of the American people.
Wow.
I mean, they gave me, the bodybuilders, there was Thanksgiving came up after that because I came over here in October, November was Thanksgiving. So there was like this whole thing about, giving me pillows and giving me blankets and giving me dishes and silverware.
Where were you, homeless or something?
But say again.
Why were they giving you all that?
Well,
just to
because
make you
if
feel welcome.
when you move into an apartment,
Oh, yeah.
what do you get? I mean, it was a furnished apartment.
And you were living in LA at that point?
It was in the valley, over there in the valley. And then all those bodybuilders came to me and they brought me all this stuff. It was like unbelievable. So I could not even believe how generous they were. And this were a lot of times people that didn't know me at all. But just because bodybuilding and joining a club, you become kind of part of that family. And so they were very, very sweet and kind. And I would never forget that. That's actually what made me then think about, well, when I ever make it, I will give that back. I will help other people myself,
When you've had such you've had a very blessed and interesting life, right? It's been, and you've had it, so at what point you're probably, I think it's fair to say you're probably in the second half of your life. At what point do you goals turn into like legacy, if in your mind at all, if it does? And I don't mean that to be an uncomfortable question. I'm just like, does your brain start to adjust where like, these are my goals, and then like, okay, this is a legacy that I want to leave? Does that make any sense or no?
Well, I think it is always important to think about, the idea of that we should leave the world a better place than we inherited it. And so my whole life was always about, okay, how can I make this a better world of the knowledge that I have? So, for instance, in fitness, in bodybuilding, I went around the world to promote the idea of weightlifting and weight training and resistance training.
Oh, yeah.
And made it then popular, right? Because we had to figure out a way of penetrating through the general public that thought that bodybuilding is just, flexing your muscles on stage. But they didn't realize that bodybuilding is something that you just get a healthy and stronger body for whatever you do. You maybe need it for tennis, you maybe need it for your bicycling, you maybe need it for your whatever sport, like UFC fighters are working.
Oh, the first time I heard of fitness was through you. It was through you.
So, but that was the idea, is I wanted to not just lift myself up, but I wanted to lift the rest of the bodybuilding movement up. And so it was always something. So now, of course, 50 years later, there's a gymnasium in every hotel in the world. There is a gymnasium or weight room in every kind of a military installation or base.
There's those guys we saw there doing those curls with the cement.
Exactly. So people are lifting weights everywhere. Every high school, every college, every sports team, everyone has weight rooms.
Yeah.
So this is where we are now. So this is why I felt really proud of that we were able, with the help of Jane Fonda and other kind of characters that were, helping women with the fitness movement. And so we really elevated the fitness sport to something really, and also a huge economic, contribution that it made. So to me, that's important. When I became governor, I wanted to make sure that we have healthcare for everybody. I want to make sure that we have a cleaner environment, that we fight pollution, and to pass laws to reduce the pollution in California by 25% and all that. So I continued on creating an environmental organization and to have our World Summit in Vienna every year, where all the environmentalists come together and talk about how do we go and fight pollution and all that stuff. So we have one coming up in 14 days now again. And so it's always after school programs, for instance, when I realized that our kids, 70% of the kids come from a home where both of the parents are working. So there's no one there picking them up after 3 o'clock from the school.
Right.
So there's kids standing around after school and not doing anything. So then I found out, well, this is the danger zone for kids between 3 and 6 o'clock because there's no supervision. So they get involved with drugs, with gangs, with violence, with alcohol, teenage pregnancy. I said, this costs the community a lot of money. Let's do something about it. Everyone was complaining about it, but they were not doing anything about it. So I stepped out and I started the after-school programs. And it has been a huge hit. We have raised over the last 30 years.
Are they still open, the programs you started?
$1.5 billion we raised.
Oh, really? How much was it?
All over the country. We have been to millions and millions of kids. We have helped with after-school programs with great success rates and all of this stuff. So to me, it's all about how can I make this a better world. So
I see what you're saying. So you feel like a lot of your legacy's kind of been lived along the way.
Exactly. It's not like this should be my legacy. I don't think that way, but I think about I want to improve the world, especially
now.
But I mean, think about it. I'm an immigrant. I'm an immigrant that came over here and got every opportunity in the world because of America.
Right.
And America gave me everything. They gave me the money that I have made, the career in bodybuilding, the career in acting, the wonderful family. All of that stuff is because of America. So to me, it's a natural thing that they give something back to America.
Well, you're one of the most jacked immigrants too that we've ever had, probably. I think for sure.
I hope so.
Yeah, I know you do, and you're competitive about it. I love that. I can feel how competitive you are. And that's great. You have to be competitive because also America is a platform for if you are competitive and if you choose to apply yourself that you can reach some of your dreams and goals and aspirations. Do you think that it's still possible? Like you've gotten to live in America for a while now and have a good breadth of understanding here. You've gotten to work in politics. Do you think the American dream is still possible? Or do you think there's things happening these days that are where we're not helping that along?
Well, I can tell you, I didn't study this issue, right? So I couldn't really give you facts and figures. But what I can tell you is, no matter where I go in the world today, people come up to me and says, Arnold, can you please help me get to America? So that never has changed. It doesn't matter to immigrants, people that want to come here. They don't know what the political situation is. They don't care if the Democrat is in power or a Republican is in power, what the Senate says, what the Congress says, what the governor says, nothing. They just want to come over here. They want to get a shot. So this is what it is. And you have to do it the legal way. So that is the key thing to me.
For sure.
To do it the legal way. So anyway, the bottom line is, I think the opportunities are there. When I go down to Gold's Gym, I see this guy from Africa that was competing in my bodybuilding shows in the Arnold Classic and was in one of the top 3 in order. Then he became a personal trainer. He's charging $200 an hour. He's driving up one day with his blue Bentley. The next day he's driving up with his red Ferrari. And I mean, this is a guy from Africa that came over here with nothing.
Yeah.
So this is a young kid. He's like maybe 35 or 40 years old, and look at what he does. So there's trainers down there that are from different countries. There's people, if you're willing to work, that's why I always say to people, I say, work your ass off. Don't ever come, this is my big advice to immigrants. I say, don't ever come over here to just use this country. I say, give something back. Think about that you want to work your ass off here, you want to educate yourself here, you want to contribute to America here. That's what you want to do, because the very fact that you're allowed to come over here, you should go and have that mentality of wanting to give something back. That's the bottom line.
Amen, man. And I think that goes to it. Even as you're saying that, Arnold, it's making me think about like even our relationships that I'm in or business situations. I should think of most things as that way. Like, let me give something to this, right? Whatever this is, if this is a relationship with a spouse or a girlfriend or a boyfriend or if it's a team that I'm on or just a commitment I've had, I'm going to spend an hour with my son or my mom to do something. Let me give something to this, right? Let me not just take even this moment for granted, whatever it is. Let me be here and be present and apply myself,
right?
So that we create something that just so I'm honoring the fact that I even have this moment in time.
Yes,
yeah.
And let me tell you something, that as soon as people realize that they're not self-made, that there were a lot of people involved in where you are today. A lot of people. You couldn't operate without your engineer. You couldn't operate without the deal that you got to do this and blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. You have to recognize that, because when you recognize that you're not self-made, that people have helped you, that is what makes you then click and say, I got to now help other people. I have the responsibility to help other people. And then you realize how much joy it brings you when you see that you have an impact and you can help other people. That's why we have the Pump Club, and that's why we do the Arnold Classic and the promotion of bodybuilding and the environmental stuff and the after-school programs. I mean, to go to one of these after-school program conventions and to hear the kids' stories, it just makes you feel so good that you did that you raised the money. We have poker tournaments at my house where we raise like $7-8 million sometimes.
Damn.
And then we put this right into the after-school programs. So this is where the action is. And you can do all of that because, as I always say, the day is 24 hours. And I talk about at great length in my book, Be Useful. I talk about all of those kind of principles of giving back and having a vision and don't listen to the naysayers and all those kind of things.